Heck yeah, man. Now that we got our new internet going, hopefully. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the Jimmy Doane Show.
4 o'clock Sundays and Wednesdays.
That's right. We are live. You may be watching this live. If you're not, you can.
Right. Yeah, we actually have. I think I've improved the internet connection.
Yeah. If there's any problems with the stream, I'll be uploading a better copy.
Pristine copy.
That's right.
And it's Jimmy Doane here, by the way, with Counselor Curtis.
And I'm Counselor Curtis. So today is the 30th of September.
Last day of the quarter.
Last day. And oh my God, what a crazy news week.
Really, you think so?
From my perspective, yeah. Did the city of Los Angeles just crumbled behind me?
Yeah, right.
No, it didn't move because it's all an illusion. But yes, now, I mean, I don't know about you personally, but for me, I spent hours on this Kavanaugh business before it all over.
You know what I did? I have exactly one paragraph.
Is that right?
I have one. President Trump has ordered the FBI to conduct a limited supplemental investigation into a Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh, and to update the judge's background check following a deal struck with Senate Republicans to move nomination forward. Okay, so got 7 days, the entire FBI, all the thousands
mobilize
all of them for 7 days. 7 days. and
root them out.
And going to find out. And of course, if you haven't been able, you do understand that the Senate itself has got minions of people that actually go, lawyers and people that do investigations.
Sure.
Okay, I mean, they've got hundreds of people that have done investigations over the last couple of months. Okay, so now they want to, and the FBI did one, complete last couple of months, back everything, but now in the next 7 days they're going to turn up dirt. Although it won't.
Well, we'll see. We still haven't heard from Mark Judge, which to me is weird that they didn't. I would have wanted to hear from him if I were the senators, because he's an eyewitness, according to the victim. The alleged victim.
He's already testified. I saw nothing.
Well, yeah, but there's a difference between writing it on a piece of paper and having your lawyer hand it in, and you coming in and saying it. I mean, that's why we brought in Kavanaugh, and that's why we brought in Ford, was to watch him say what we knew what they were going to say, at least ostensibly. But the question is, you want to watch him, you want to see, because it's a question of credibility, or in Ford's case, memory potentially. But in Kavanaugh, it was all about credibility. So, do you want to go into that now, or do you want to do the other stuff first and come back to that later?
I don't know. I mean, let me just run through some of this stuff.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Pages. I thought it was interesting. Everybody's always talking about the Koch brothers influence. Okay, Michael Bloomberg spending on house races, just the house races, midterms has passed $80 million. Headed for $100 million. He sees an increasing chance for Democrats to win control. The plan. Half of will go to women candidates, a Bloomberg advisor said, and as this fall's blue wave strengthens, we want to make sure that they get all the money, and of course he's eyeing a run for the 2020 presidential. So this is part of his deal, which I think is interesting. They never, whenever they talk about the Koch brothers, they fail to mention Soros or Bloomberg or the big money guys on the left. Right.
Right. Well, there's big money guys on both sides of it.
Oh, I know that. What I'm saying is, it's interesting that you hear more about the Koch brothers than anybody else, and So
I hear about Soros all the time. I hear about.
The only thing I ever hear about Soros is they want to indict him for Nazi collaboration or something.
Well, it's obvious. I mean, it's all over the web that he's a left wing funder of all sorts of movements and groups and stuff. And like I said, they got him on both sides.
Okay, Elizabeth Warren is in the news.
Heck yeah!
Elizabeth Warren has a plan to solve the country's housing crisis. Now, this is what is amazing to me. This is the stupidity.
Oh, this is one of the news I was going to tell you about. But go ahead, tell me your Elizabeth Warren news.
She said her American Housing and Economic Mobility Act, which she has filed, introduced to the Senate this week, would address a dire problem that's only getting worse. The cost of housing has just gone through the roof. Ask anybody out there who's trying to rent or buy. Housing costs are just going up, up, up. 10 years ago, millions of Americans lost their home, and many of them haven't got it back. What this bill is about is to bring those costs back down, Warren said. So the people, they can afford rent, and if they want to, will have a chance to buy. We need a national housing policy that is aimed towards families, hard-working people across the country.
I'm encouraging young kids everywhere to vandalize the homes in their neighborhood.
But here's the deal. The housing costs have gone out. Okay. Her new bill intends to pour $500 billion into affordable housing. I mean, here's the deal. You're going to hold housing costs down by spending $500 billion.
Heck yeah.
I mean, Jesus, and also they would invest, mind you, invest $2 billion to support borrowers.
Oh my God, she saw my platform. My platform was free homes.
Is that right?
Yeah, that was after Cortez won. I said, what? Job? I want a home and a car.
Yeah.
Forget my Obama phone. How about my Obama home?
Right. There you go.
I mean, come on.
Yeah. Well, of course, it was interesting that in the 30s, I forget who ran on it, but a chicken in every pot was.
Yeah. Wasn't that Roosevelt?
No, I think it was before Roosevelt.
Before him?
Yeah. Somebody before Roosevelt said, chicken in every. This was during the Depression.
Right.
They were running on a chicken in every pot. I don't think it was Roosevelt.
Okay.
But look at it, Google it for God's sake.
Yeah.
So here she's going to pay for it. You ready for this? She estimated that taxing the estates, it's an estate tax now. She's going to up the estate tax.
Oh.
Of the 10,000 wealthiest families in this country, will provide 3 million new homes and apartments, bring down rent by 10%, and get more first-time buyers into their homes. To me, that's how you build a real future in this country. And she says, what we're doing is, if the people that do very well in this country, we're going to ask them to put something back for the next generation.
Oh yeah, we'll ask.
We're going to ask them.
Yeah.
I love this. I mean, there's all this asking, and of course, this is if you say no.
Is it okay?
If you don't say okay, well then somebody's with a gun is going to show up.
This is like when Mrs. Jimmy asks you where you want to go to dinner.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Do you want to go here?
Yeah. Right.
Is this where you want to go?
Yeah. Yeah. No, she's just about moved in too, by the way. So I just thought this was interesting that of all the programs that are designed to, you think about it, one of the reasons for the housing crash was because first-time buyers, they waived all the requirements for first-time buyers. You could They had what?
Ninja.
Huh?
Ninja loans. No income, no job, no assets.
Oh, right. Okay, ninja loans. Right. Okay, I'd forgotten about that. Mm-hmm. Right. And so and you were one, and of course a lot of the loans.
Yeah, look, it made perfect sense actually, mathematically, and the reason they were able to give AAA ratings to all these is because after it started to take off, housing prices were increasing so fast that as soon as you closed on the house, you could practically resell it for more than it was worth, plus your closing costs.
Right.
So,
well, of course, what was interesting was this was a rerun of 1980 when they did the same thing. I was down in St. Petersburg at the time, and people were, putting not down payments, but it called reserve money, $5,000.
So the savings and loan thing?
No. This was what happened was down in St. Pete, and this is what it was interesting, and actually mostly resort places, they were building condos like crazy. They were raising the beachfront homes and putting up these condos, and they would pre-sell the condo before it even started construction. So you walk in there and you put a promise payment or whatever, $5,000, and people were going there and do about 5 of them at a time. They put down $25,000,
right, and
and then on the idea that when it was done they would resell. Actually, that worked for a while, but then it all came crashing down, and for a while. At least when I was down in St. Pete, you saw these empty shells all over the place because the people just walked away. They walked away. So, but this is the kind of thing that happens. So here's what's interesting is
it's a squareamid scheme.
Yeah, I mean, this is like you say. I don't know how she's going to get the first time. We had this already with, like you say, with the ninja loans. On those were first time buyers. They're sitting, they're living under a bridge now in a cardboard box.
You can't change the housing market. You just can't. It is so huge. And she really thinks that? Well, she does obviously. She thinks with a little. All I have to do is do some spending here. a little tweaking, and
well, the thing about it, when you do spending, for instance, when they spend on education, education costs rise.
Sure.
When you spend on...
Because if you're an education seller, and all of a sudden a new buyer comes to town with $500 billion, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
You're going to raise those prices. You're going to offer them services. You're going to come up with a way to get your share of that.
Same thing with healthcare. The reason healthcare
exactly
is because they have all the money that goes into healthcare. What do you expect?
Right.
I mean, you're a bunch of idiots.
Well, they think that they can participate in the market, and they'll take $500 billion in this case, and then they'll just insert it right there in between the housing and the banks, the housing owners and the banks, and so the owners will benefit. Mm-hmm. And it's like they don't see any of the elasticity in the market at all. Which it all will go to the banks. It'll all go to them.
Right. No, that's true. And it's another case of the seen and the unseen. I mean, the thing about it, of course, is the wealthiest people who've made all their money in the country ask them to give something back. They've already paid taxes on that money. In case you're interested, they've paid.
Yeah, but we're beyond the part. We're beyond the point of where Americans think that people own their wealth anymore. At this point, the federal government can wave its magic wand and take as much money as it wants from anybody, and it's just fine. And the richer you are, the more justified it is. It's like a thief mentality. It's amazing. That's literally what a small child tells you after they rob a store. Well, there was so much candy there.
They weren't going to miss it.
They weren't, exactly what they say. They weren't going to miss it. They had tons of candy.
Yeah.
So that's the same exact argument.
We can talk about some more of that. Next item on my list is the Texas Attorney General. This is amazing. The Texas Attorney General has jumped into a Houston area lawsuit to defend a state law that requires school children to participate in the Pledge of Allegiance unless a parent or guardian. Now, what happened was somebody didn't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, and they suspended her and sent her home. And this is what you must do. So, and of course,
beat her.
Yeah, no. I mean, they sent her home, so she refused to stand during the pledge. And
I thought they solved this. I thought it was you can sit there in silence if you want to.
According to the Supreme Court,
right? Not
according to the Houston Attorney.
Okay, yeah.
This guy here has decided, and he says,
"Come on, man."
He says Paxson argued requiring the pledge to recite at school fosters, quote, respect for our flag and a patriotic love of our country. I mean, you just sit there. He said school children cannot unilaterally refuse to participate in the pledge. So you have to submit written permission
and they
from
have
your
to go to
parent or
church
guardian.
on Sunday too.
Yeah, that's right. Written and of course the thing about it is look at look at the effect on the child. I mean, here's the child has to go home and Mom, look, I don't want to stand for the pledge, and okay, here's your note, and so you sit. The whole class stands up. I mean, I've done this in Rotary for God's sakes because I'm one of those. But I stand up. I mean, I don't say anything. I don't, but I mean, you just sit there, just even with that does not look good. So it's a peer pressure thing for sure. Mm-hmm. So, but I mean, for the Attorney General to come out, it's just ludicrous. Okay, the U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
I think one of our friends is his nephew.
What?
Yep, one of my Facebook friends.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Her nephew.
Yeah.
Okay. Every woman of my vintage, which is like dinosaur. Vintage has not one story, but many stories. She's joined the Me Too movement. And it's anticipated a Senate panel hearing into sexual misconduct. She was happy that, the guys now are all being torn down, the big guys are being torn down by the sexual accusations. And so she was giving a speech to the first year Georgetown law students. So she was cheered on by the Me Too movement and has led to a downfall of multiple rich and powerful men. And she said, this is the thing that gets me, Ginsburg said, the movement shows that women are united. And I'm thinking, this is a class thing.
Well, just you're
talking about half the population of the United States.
That's just a speech thing to say.
I know,
we're all united. I mean, come on. That's just
anyway. Now, the other thing, of course, talking about regulation, people, the EU Justice Commissioner says the media must be regulated to prevent hate. Racial abuse, discrimination, and the bad version of nationalism that promotes exclusion and hatred are on the rise, and the media may need to be regulated to help curtail the problem, said the European Justice Commissioner Vera Horvona. She warned, a dangerous version of nationalism, not only visible to the rising popularity of the extreme parties, but also evident in the political mainstream. So the dangerous right-wing people are infiltrating the mainstream, and she called on politicians and the press to take action. And we think we know exactly what she means by action. By the way, her full title is
The Final Solution. Oh.
Yeah, The Final Solution, right. We know what she means by take action, right. Her full title is European Commissioner for Justice, Consumers, and Gender Equality. That's her title.
Wait, say it again.
Her title in the EU. Okay, this is in Brussels.
Right.
What she is the European Commissioner for Justice, Consumers, and Gender Equality.
Those things go under the same rubric?
Yes.
Justice?
Yes.
Consumers.
That's her title. That's her title on the door.
Gender.
Her name, is Vera. Apparently, I'm looking at the spelling here. I'm guessing she's Czech or something because the E has a little over it. So it's Vera Jourova, and she is on the door. It says her name, and then it has European Commissioner for Justice, Consumers, and Gender Equality.
Well, okay, so.
Okay, now this is another thing that I like. This is in Sweden. This is I spent a year in Sweden. This was 40 years ago or 50 years ago. And
Great grandmother's Swedish or something.
Really?
Yeah, Steinberg. Marie Steinberg.
Okay, I don't know, but okay, whatever you say.
It's on your ancestry.com.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, I spent some time over there, and it was, I went over there because of the free love and all that kind of stuff. I was in my early 20s. Because it was kind of a free society that way.
Because you weren't at Yale, so.
No, right, exactly. Well, I'll tell you, the good news is if the 70-year-old ladies want to, 75-year-old ladies want to come over here and accuse me of something, they have to accuse me in Swedish. No, but anyway, it's a popular. They also have decided they've swung the other way. A popular distracted boyfriend meme based on a photo of a man. Okay, and here's the photo. This is the photo in. Let's see here. That's the photo in black and white. I had it in color, but I had it in color. I'm sorry, I had it in color, but the color's not there. And what you can see here is the distracted boyfriend. Is looking away from his girlfriend and looking at the other one. Yeah. And they call this sexist. Now, this ad.
Wait, what sexist in what way?
Because he's looking away from his girlfriend and eyeing salaciously or whatever the other girl walking away.
Okay.
See, he's holding hands with his girlfriend.
Yeah.
And look at her face. Of course, she is sitting there.
How do we know that's not her sister? He's holding hands with.
Because that's the deal. The deal is and I'll tell you why we know that is because in that they said that it's sexist because he's holding hands with his girlfriend. He's looking at this other girl.
Chauvinist, you mean?
Well. It's not that. It's what they said is the stock image known as "man looking at other women" by a photographer in Barcelona was meme of the year, most widely shared memes.
Wow.
And well, what happened was they were using that picture in all kinds of ads.
Right.
And one of the ads had the girl in the red dress was called Bahnhof, which is the name of a company.
Okay.
And he was called Du, which is him, and the girlfriend was called Where You're Currently Working. So he was eyeing a more attractive. This was the idea was to jump jobs.
Right.
And so they've come out and said this is a sexist meme, and it's objectifying women.
How do we know that girlfriend isn't just a raging?
Well, you could tell, but she's looking at him like she's staring darts at him. I mean, she's look. It's obvious. Look, how do we know she's not an alien? How do we know she's not a carrot? in disguise. I mean, you can say whatever you want. Look, the meme is the following. He's looking away from his normal front of the thing and admiring something new. Okay, that's the meme.
Got it.
So anyway, the Swedish ombudsman. Now, an ombudsman, interesting, is a Swedish word. These are the people that you can go complain to that will go through the cut through the red tape and so forth. Said recruitment advertisements posted on Facebook by the internet service provider Bahnhof, which labeled the boyfriend you and the current girl and the girlfriend your current workplace, and the second woman Bahnhof were gender discriminatory. The local reported. So this objectifies women. The ombudsman said, and it presents women as interchangeable items, and blah blah blah. So no, I mean seriously. So anyway, they were all. This is the guy who's came out apparently big long statement and everything else on how terrible this was, and of course it was. So like,
is there concept that once you have a girlfriend that's it?
I guess. I mean, no.
Once you're holding hands with a girl, that's it. It's over.
Yeah,
you're married.
Yeah.
Essentially, that's it. You touched her.
You touched her. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, it's fascinating to me that they make such a big deal about this, which of course is used all over the place, and that this objectifies women, but of course it's an ad, for switching your job. I mean,
well, look. The objectification of the women aspect, okay, which is really, I'm going to go ahead and call it a chauvinistic aspect,
okay,
is a secondary or tertiary interpretation or view of the advertisement, or of the picture. I mean, you can interpret that picture several different ways, like I already did. You can say that, what?
Okay, I
mean, you can look, Look, the chances that that's his sister in the ad are small. Okay, I would say, yeah, okay, right. What? 1%, 2%, 0.5%, but it's there. It's a possibility. The fact if it's, or like I said, or maybe she's a killer and and you can't see her hand. She's got a gun in her other hand. She's sticking it in his liver. And he's looking back at the other girl because he thinks he saw a badge on her. He thinks she's a cop, and he's looking for some help. So this guy is a victim, and you just can't see it.
Okay, here's the deal, Mr. Novel Writer. Look, are you finished with your novel, your book yet, or anything? This is like the stories that we see on TV on the Death in the Caribbean or whatever it is,
right?
Where there's a murder and then it all works out, and you're going like, how did they come up with it? So I'm asking you, what? As I said, it's okay. She's an alien carrot that looks like this red dressed girl, and the other one's a cabbage. And I mean, give me a break. Look, it's obvious. If you ask 100 guys, 99 of them are going to say what I just said. Mm-hmm. It's his girlfriend. She's pissed that he's ogling another woman. Mm-hmm. End of story.
He's shopping for her dress, another dress.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. He's attracted to the color red. Okay. So anyway, I just thought it was interesting that the Swedes have come so far as to actually come out. An ombudsman, somebody in the government, has come out and decried this as something that we should not go for, or whatever. Okay.
Right. Well, I mean, look, my point wasn't to be with the crazy stories. I'm going too far on this, I suppose, but the obvious interpretation is, like you said, it's his girlfriend, okay, which means they can break up, okay. You get the chauvinistic interpretation is they're married.
Well,
I mean, if they're married,
okay. No, let me tell you why they're not married. They're holding hands.
Perfect. And so what I'm getting at is that what the group who hates this ad, this image, is inferring the worst possible scenario, which is that they're married, and that he's considering leaving his wife and committing mortal sin,
adultery,
right, or whatever it is, and so that's obviously what's happening. But no, I'm sure, as you are, 99 times out of 100, it's the girlfriend. They're young, they're so young, and yeah, that's what, like you said, married people don't hold hands anymore, and they certainly don't get caught looking at the other girl.
Right, exactly. Let me tell you something. The one way you can actually, strain your eyeball muscles if you're walking down the street is to rotate your eye while trying to walk straight.
Oh, I forgot something. What was that? So that's just people looking for something to be mad at. So go ahead.
Right. Okay. next item I've got is, and this is kind of interesting, gasoline prices are climbing towards $4 a gallon in Southern California, boosted in large part by a rise in worldwide crude prices. And also they mentioned that there's an additional, starting tomorrow, I think, an additional 12 cents tax, bringing the tax on a gallon of gasoline to 47 cents.
Just a penny.
Which is interesting, because when I was growing up, you could buy gasoline for $29.9. 29, and that was, they had gas wars, and actually it would go down to 19 cents a gallon.
You still could if it wasn't for all the taxes.
Well, that's right. If it was a total free market. The average pump price for regular gas in Los Angeles, Long Beach area stood at $3.73. Now, what's interesting is, just a couple of years ago when I was going across country, gasoline prices went up to about $4, and it didn't really stop me that much. I mean, and
that was before the shale stuff, though.
Oh yeah, before the shale drilling and all that. That's right. But I mean, it was an anomaly. I mean, it was interesting because they went up and down, and they do, and all that kind of stuff. It's the market figures it all out. And but what I'm saying is that gasoline at $4 a gallon was not the horrible impediment that you would think it might be. It affected some stuff, but life pretty much went on. And but I say that, of course, here
it's
locally,
not like we all recall the great gas dearth of.
Well, the only time we had a gas dearth was when they controlled the prices in the 70s, during the first Arab embargo. And of course, as soon as they lifted the control on the gas prices, they went up to 60 cents a gallon or something. But then you could have all the gas you wanted. I mean, it was just the price control was what killed it. Was what caused the lines, caused the lines at the gas stations and everything. So anyway, the interesting part to me is that, of course, here locally, I think our gas now is well under $3 a gallon for regular. It's $2.73 or $2.78. Okay, that's pretty.
I get it at the expensive place, which is like $2.83 or something.
Why do you do that?
Because it's convenient.
There you go. Well, there you are. The market. That's right. It's convenient. No, not me. See, what I do is
drive across town.
I drive down to Ocala,
right.
where it's a nickel less.
That's right.
So that's it. That's my
spend a day gassing up.
That's it. Boy, I'll tell you. Okay, the next item I've got is the United Nations ambassador, Nikki Haley, on Thursday joined Venezuelan protesters outside the World Body headquarters and called for the ouster of Nicolas Maduro. She had a picture of her with a megaphone, and she's out there with the protesters.
Well, she did.
And Haley's impressive demonstrators was highly unusual for
what
a
does she think she gonna do? Talk him down or something?
Well,
come out!
Yeah, well,
this is Nikki Haley!
Right. So it came a day after President Donald Trump hinted at military options against Maduro's leftist government. I mean, what do we're sitting here thinking,
God, the collapse is imminent.
Yeah, right.
He's killing it from the inside. The patient is dying of cancer. We're going to fight
for Venezuela, and we're going to continue doing it until Maduro is gone, Haley shouted from a megaphone. We need your voices to be loud, and I tell you, the U.S. voice is going to be loud. What gets me, of course, about this is that everybody's talking about Russian collusion, which is no evidence of any of that.
Right.
In the thing.
And here's our ambassador.
Here's our ambassador and our president hinting at military option.
Right.
I mean, and as I say, you got to ask yourself.
And the ambassador announcing with a megaphone, no less,
a megaphone, right?
That we are actively fighting.
Yeah, I mean, this is. I mean, you sit there and you think, you don't see the irony in this. You don't see the hypocrisy.
No parallels there. No parallels.
She's the United Nations ambassador, and she's outside the world headquarters of something with a megaphone.
I'm just not seeing it. I'm
just sitting there laughing my head. Okay, now this I like. This is one of the things I like. Quote: "He will not serve for life. Democrats are already plotting Kavanaugh's impeachment."
Are we on to Kavanaugh yet? Because if we get to Kavanaugh, we covered everything else.
Okay. Well, let me just go. Okay.
Yeah, we got a couple.
I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Let me just mention that tuberculosis is a disease people hear about. TB is. I didn't realize this. TB is currently the deadliest infectious disease. Okay. As opposed to mosquitoes, responsible for 1.6 million deaths, most of in the developing world. And that's not the scariest part. A rapidly growing number of patients are developing drug-resistant TB, which kills more people than any other drug-resistant pathogens. So I think this is what happens, of course. What happened with penicillin was, I remember my uncle telling me when I was supposed to go to Vietnam, he says, the gonorrhea or VD over there will eat penicillin for breakfast. So be careful.
Right.
And so it was so interesting that they never even thought about anything becoming resistant or growing to be resistant. So anyway, here's TB. Now, another thing that I've got here, just about the last thing, two things on drones. A regulatory overhaul could drastically change who can fly drones in the U.S. The drone industry, biggest argument with the FAA reauthorization, the removal of 226, I guess there's at least, there's 225 other paragraphs in this regulation, but number 226, also known as the Special Rule for Model Aircraft, implemented in the FAA reauthorization of 2012, Section 336, has prevented rules or regulations from being applied to model airplanes or aircraft weighing 55 pounds or less. Among other things, the new bill requires operators of unmanned aircraft to have passed an aeronautical knowledge and safety test and maintain an altitude less than 400 feet above ground level, and of course no speeds greater than 40 knots, and maintaining a visual line of sight and operating between sunrise and sunset.
God.
Government regulation on drones.
Yeah, well, that's what they tried to do before, and fortunately it got shot down.
They're doing it again.
Right. Well, with the reauthorization, that's
right, and it's supposed to be passed today. I mean, I don't know if it is, but it's kind of snuck in there. It's in there someplace. And apparently not. You don't hear much about it from us. And along the same thing, which I thought was kind of interesting, and I don't understand this. You'll love this. IBM has filed a patent for a coffee delivery drone. It would know when you need a caffeine boost and fly over with your fancy coffee. A new patent from IBM could bring new meaning to instant coffee. The patent describes a drone that could detect when a person is tiring and fly over with a cup of coffee on demand. No need to worry if yours is if you have to go to the corner of Starbucks. Scanning the people using one or more sensors connected to the UAV, which identifies an individual among the people that may have predetermined cognitive state. Based on sensor data and flying the UAV, the individual will have a predetermined cognitive state to deliver the drone. This is part of the patent, okay?
Bullshit!
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying it's a patent. Why?
Yeah.
What are you talking about? A patent for this, and of course, this.
Well, it's just a drone, and they're just making it out to be a super science fiction drone, is all. And sure, look here's the look. My drone does the same thing. It does, yeah. For some reason, it's picked everybody as a customer.
Oh yeah, okay, right, yeah, right. Thousands of drones with thousands of cups of coffee, right? I mean, you got to ask yourself, of course, does it scan your credit card or?
Yeah, right. We've already charged you.
We've already charged you. Better drink it.
It just dumps the coffee on you. Yow! The hot
That's
coffee
hot.
in the face.
I'm suing.
Right.
So anyway, but this is the last thing that I've got before we move on to Kavanaugh. A facial recognition technology used at airports has an 85% match rate during tests. The agency's goal is 97 to 100. Now they've done some testing and so forth. What I thought was interesting, and we talked about this last Wednesday, was the 200 million cameras in China that were going to, for your social score. And I'm thinking, if these guys, I mean, Chinese, they all look alike. If they've got facial recognition in China that can tell those people up to 980 million people apart.
Well, that's what I was just about to say. If these guys are dreaming of 99% accuracy or 97 or whatever, I mean that means one mistake in 100. And like you said, then that's what.
Well, when you consider
10 million mistakes.
Right, exactly. I was going to say a 747, emptying out, you're going to have at least 3 or 4 or 5 mistakes.
Right. Yeah.
That's just for that plane, that
Killing
moment.
Your score.
Yeah.
Can you imagine somebody looks just like you, just out there, just raging, just doing shit against the party? And
they had, interesting, you should mention this, there was a story this week that came out, and they had the guy was a bank robber or something, and they had his face, had cap on and everything, and they were absolutely sure they knew who it was. And it turns out that by the time they had shackled him and everything like that, they found, and he said, no, it wasn't me. Didn't have an alibi, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And then they found a guy that looked exactly like him that was the guy. So, I mean, a doppelganger, doppelganger. So I just thought it was interesting that the Chinese can figure out 980 million differences on, we should be able to do it here. Because we don't look alike.
Yeah.
They do, we don't.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so anyway, moving on to your thing here.
Well, I got a couple other little light notes before. Did you see that this week that they charged Elon Musk
20 million?
40 million.
40 million.
The SEC, Securities Exchange Commission, charged Elon Musk with fraud for a tweet.
Right.
Okay.
This was his tweet that he said he was going to go private, and he'd gotten some funding from the Saudis.
Right.
And
he named the price.
He named the price.
Right.
And so the stock went up.
Right.
And then it didn't pan out.
And he didn't go private.
Yeah.
So what do you think about that?
The SEC, they look. These are the same people that put what's his name in jail, Milken,
right,
inside, and they put Martha fucking Stewart in jail. I mean, are you kidding me?
I mean,
Martha Stewart, America's
Musk,
sweetheart.
Right, exactly. Musk is practically a national hero from the standpoint of business.
Seriously, how many people have got a car in space, for God's sakes?
Yeah, come on.
But I mean, of course,
that guy, he's having too much fun there.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. And of course, this is if anybody else, like say if I tweeted it out, they couldn't get 40 million out of me.
No.
So they go where the money is.
Yeah. Wow.
Oh my God, it's stupid. It's stupid.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like it was inside or anything. Right. I mean, this was, the fact is,
like who trades on a tweet? Right?
Exactly. Who trades on a tweet? I mean, fraud.
I mean, Musk put out a tweet. Must be accurate.
Yeah. Well, I guess it's one of these things. It's like this. Show me the money first.
Right. Right.
Hey, we're thinking maybe the Saudis. Well, we'll wait till they actually do it.
Right.
And if you want to speculate on it, that's your problem.
Yeah.
I mean.
On a tweet.
On a tweet. Okay. A public tweet.
Yeah. Okay. And then one more thing, real quick. And this is a different kind of a guy who killed 3 people in a car crash.
Okay.
Was sentenced to 10 days in jail. 1 day every year he has to come back and serve a day. And so he only gets 10 days in jail.
Yeah. And
he has to do that for 10 years.
What is...
So what this is...
What is this?
Okay, so what this is this is a cutback against the concept that all accidents are evil. All right? This kid was in this car accident, no evidence of any drugs or alcohol or anything in the system, just made a wrong turn. He turned down a one-way road going the wrong way, and he had a head-on collision with another car.
Okay. Killed
his sister, who was in the car with him, and 2 other people.
In the other car.
Right. Okay. Now, what I maintained for a long, long time is that this is an accident. Okay. But the families of the other people, of course, want blood.
Okay.
Families always want revenge because humans want somebody to blame for tragedy. You can't help it. If you're a human, something tragic befalls you, you look around for something to blame, someone, because your mind wants to figure it out.
Well, you're right about that.
And so, but a lot of times it just doesn't, it's just not there. It's just effervescent. It's just the universe. And you just have to deal with it. It just is the reality. And this is the situation of most car accident victims. Most car accident victims are victims of accidents. Nobody was trying to kill them. If the person in the other car could take it back, they would do it. And so what you get is a situation where there's no behavior to reform. There's nothing that you can do to this kid that would have changed, that had you done it beforehand, he would have changed his driving on that night. You see what I'm saying? That night, even if you put this kid in jail for 20 years, you bring him back out, and you say, you can drive again, and he drives around, and he turns down a wrong way road again and kills 3 more people, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. There's no behavior to reform. So there's no sense in punishing non-criminal behavior.
Well,
and
of course, going the wrong way on a one-way street is...
Well, that's a civil infraction.
Okay. And what about speeding?
No evidence he was speeding.
No, I know.
It's a civil infraction.
But I'm saying a lot of times when you do see the big accidents, somebody was speeding.
The number 1 cause of accidents is not drinking, it's speeding.
Okay.
The number 1 cause.
All right.
The number 2 cause is fatigue.
Okay.
And then alcohol and drugs and stuff.
Okay.
So those other 2 things cause more deaths and accidents than alcohol and drugs, and yet if you're under the alcohol and drugs, they transfer your intent into something criminal.
Well, not only that, of course, what they do is even if you haven't caused any problems.
Oh yeah. No, you can be caught for a non-crime, a non-thought crime, non-crime. Nothing happened.
You can be sitting in the Walmart parking lot, dozing because you're sleeping it off.
Right.
You go to jail.
Right. And so, but this is a cutback against that because this judge sees the ridiculousness of that. So he sentenced the kid to the 10 days so that he'd think about it every year. Like he's not going to remember his sister or whatever anyway.
Right.
But whatever. It's just nice to see some normalcy returning to sentencing.
In one place. Yeah, I've seen some YouTubes on this thing too. There's a judge who when the kids come up and do something, and he'll ask them, about this stuff, and then he'll say, yeah, well, no, that's you can just get out of here, something, because it wasn't. I mean, he's on there a lot. It's almost. But he's a real judge. I mean, as opposed to the reality judges.
Well, the reality judges are real judges.
Oh, I know that. But I mean, they are for show.
It's not a TV.
Yeah, this is a little different.
Okay.
What's her name? Of course, is Filthy Rich.
Oh yeah, she's a huge.
Okay, so moving on
to the judge.
What I'm going to do is let me start it off.
Yeah.
He will not serve for life. Democrats are already drawing up impeachment papers. The Senate Judiciary preparing to recommend Judge Brett Kavanaugh to be confirmed to fill the SCOTUS seat vacated by Anthony Kennedy. It looks like he's going to make it through, and that's why they're already drawing up the impeachment. Is reporting the Democratic operatives are already scheming to impeach Kavanaugh as quickly as they can. So that's obvious. I mean, I'm guessing they've seen the handwriting on the wall, and so now they're going to go for the impeachment.
Well, possibly. I suppose I haven't done the count on the votes. I don't know the people exactly involved. I don't know how close it was before, but I don't think this hearing did the judge any services.
No,
I mean, from my perspective, it was even worse than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
And of course,
dead nuts on the money.
Just to reframe this, when last we left our heroes, we were just about to hear the testimony of Christine Ford, and Kavanaugh is returning to rebut whatever she says. So, let me tell you from my perspective what I saw, if you want. And I want to start with the judge, with Judge Kavanaugh, our former Judge Kavanaugh.
He's still a judge.
Not for long.
Yeah, not for long, right.
Jesus. I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, I give him a 1 or a 2 in terms of how well he did. His opening statement, he says, I wrote this statement without talking to anyone about it. Okay. There are 3 things at least wrong with this right off the bat. Number 1, that's not a requirement.
No.
So you might as well damn share it with somebody. You're emotional about it. Why wouldn't you run it past a bunch of officials and stuff, okay? And number 2, we all know what he's really saying here. He's really saying, I wrote it myself because I'm telling the truth. Mm-hmm. And if you had help writing it, like her, then you're not telling the truth. But he shouldn't make this about her. He shouldn't make it about her. He should play the good defendant. And it's shocking to me, until I thought about it a little bit more, that he has such poor courtroom decorum. Here's a judge, and if Judge Kavanaugh was in Judge Kavanaugh's courtroom, he'd be held in contempt for his behavior in the courtroom. You don't get to whine and scoff and interrupt your questioners and ask the question back at them. And he did all of those things. And he acted arrogant and entitled, and he acted just like the guy that the Democrats are trying to make him out to be. And I can't. It's just remarkable. He already had such a great model in the way that Clarence Thomas handled this thing. Clarence Thomas faced exactly the same thing. Hearings were over, and then all of a sudden Anita Hill appeared, gets called back in, and then the whole parade of everything. And he makes one statement at the end. Now Clarence did play the race card on him, and he won. You know, he he won with that. And of course, Kavanaugh can't do that. But his testimony was so bad for him on so many levels. I mean, what he should have done was he should have come in and he should have said, "I'm Brett Kavanaugh, and this is." I've been on the court for this long and never been accused of anything like this, and I categorically deny this. I don't remember this woman. I've never met her before in my life, and I would know if I'd ever seen her. And that's it. He shouldn't have referred to the calendar and brought all this stuff up. Now, and he should know this. You can't prove a negative.
Right. You can't prove a negative.
And so he spent like 25 minutes or 30 minutes trying to prove where he was at various places, and he didn't quite get the concept that what they're looking at here is his credibility.
Yeah.
It's not his memory that they're questioning, it's whether or not he lied. And if he lied, then this calendar could be falsified. It would have been falsified at the time. So it doesn't help him at all to have the calendar there. And also, if you remember, as he's claiming he does, what do you need a calendar for? You don't. You just say, I remember. That didn't happen. Never happened. And you smile and you let it go on. And that's it. You give them the O.J. Simpson response. You sit there and you give nothing for them for all of the time that they're questioning for you. And yet instead he came in there and put the senators in their places, and it's not his place to do that at that time. So it was Lindsey Graham's, but he went off on, I mean, it was so funny when he's like, "What have you been through, Judge? Is it hell?" Like, yeah. Are you trying to softball this one to me, Lindsey?
Yeah.
But I thought that the judge really did a bad job. And of course now there's all these questions. There's at least 6 different things that he said that people are calling outright lies. That now they're saying are felonies because he lied while under oath to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And unfortunately, 4 of them are totally up to interpretation. And these are things that came directly out of his own cryptic notes. It's things that he wrote in the margin that they questioned him about. And he said they mean one thing, and then they Google it, and Google says it means something else. Well, now they have a case for fraud against the judge. Yeah. So I think he did himself just a horrible disservice in his testimony. And
well, of course, preceding that, of course, was the questioning by, as you mentioned, the bitch from wherever she was.
Well, I wouldn't call her a bitch.
Well, I mean, the most incompetent questioner on the planet.
Yeah. She gets a 1 out of 10 as well.
I mean, my God, you nailed it. Last Wednesday when we were talking about this, you said, of all the people they could have chosen, this is the worst. She's a government operative. She doesn't have any experience in this stuff, blah, blah, blah. And boy, she showed it too. She was the most, and of course the reason they did it was because she's a woman. That was the only reason.
That's why she gets 1 point.
That's why she gets 1 point.
Right. And she showed up, and she was a woman.
And her questions, God, she had no experience, obviously, in this before.
Did you notice after every answer that was given that she liked, she said, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, did you go upstairs? Yes, I did. Okay. Did you do that? Yes, I did. Okay. Did you? It was like, how many trials has she done?
Yeah.
I mean, you drop that after 5 or 6. I gotta think. I mean, what the heck, man?
Yeah. No, you're right.
And
those the things that are the most aggravating are okay. And I've just
I mean, come on, I can't believe
I'm doing this, okay, and then I'm doing this over here, okay, and you see how to do this, okay. Shut up.
She must have said it 50 times.
I know.
She must have said it as many times as Kavanaugh said beer. It was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
So yeah.
So for what we're saying is that on both sides, it was poorly handled, to put it mildly.
Well, yeah. I mean, Christine Ford's testimony, in and of itself, wasn't. It wasn't. It was adequate. It was fine.
Yeah.
For what it was supposed to be.
Mm-hmm.
And let me just preface this by saying that I am in no way questioning people's assertion that memories can be forgotten and then later recovered. I know that that's 100% true. I've seen it happen in hypnosis shows. Somebody told to forget something that just happened, and they will forget it completely and then remember it a few minutes later when they're told to remember it. And humans do this all the time. And look, this is 35 years ago. If I asked you what you were wearing for Halloween 35 years ago, you could probably think of one of the costumes. And then if I thought, what? The big ape, right? And then if I asked you what happened that day or whatever, I mean, you could say it was October 31st, but could you say, if it was rainy or whatever? I mean, all right, what I'm getting at is this. There's a way to interpret her testimony that does not call into question victims who remember or don't remember their situations. Okay?
Say that again. I'm not sure. I don't understand that.
What I'm getting at is she could have lied. She could be lying, or she could not. She could have totally, in her mind, changed things around.
That happens all the time.
Okay.
I mean, that is probably more happens than you believe. I mean, the fact is that I can tell you right now, when I tell stories about what your mother and I and Ms. Jimmy and everybody have done, I mean, I embellish them, and I can tell you right now that on some of these stories, she was there and says that's not the way it happened.
Well, exactly.
And I'm sitting there and I'm absolutely confident. But this is normal, that people will misremember or whatever it is. So that happens all the time. That's why we've always talked about this before, that the witness, when you see somebody, the witness people. How can I put this? When they say the eyewitness accounts are bogus. I mean, they go and everybody has seen the same thing. They ask them what they saw, and they get all these different explanations.
Right. And
right at that time.
I have interviewed people under oath who have said vastly different accounts of the same stuff. Now, not only that, but everybody needs to recognize this fact. This fact, okay? Some people do lie. Yeah. Some people do just make shit up, okay? And when they do that, they almost always must assert some type of memory loss, because there's too many details to remember in a lie. So what always comes up is memory loss. And look, it makes perfect sense. Think about it. If I said to you, I'm getting an image, all I remember now is a bright white light, and Catherine Zeta-Jones is attacking me, and now it's over. That's it. And that's all I remember, but it was real. And I tell you that, and you're like, you'd be like, don't you have anything more than that? And I said, no, that really happened. And you said, well, where and when, and whatever. And if I don't have those details, you're right to question me. Now, look, and what I'm not saying. I want to preface this by saying that. Oh shoot, I forgot.
That quickly you forgot.
Yeah, exactly. I was just going to say something about it. Crap. There are the only way that you can know whether or not somebody is lying or misremembering is if you question them about the details. You have to ask specifically what happened, and you have to get to the details. And without the details, you're right to question someone's memory about it, because there's no other way for you to know unless there's detail. Now, that being said, here's what I was going to say. One person's testimony and memory about a situation is enough to convict. It's enough to convict someone in a criminal court. If she came in all by herself and said, I remember this happening clearly, like she did, and 100%, it was Brett Kavanaugh, like she did. If you believe that, That is enough evidence to take somebody to court and convict them in front of a jury. If the jury believes just her testimony, even if everybody else says, I don't know what she's talking about, I don't remember that at all, just her testimony is enough evidence and sufficient evidence to convict. And
really?
Absolutely. And it's certainly enough evidence to get him kicked out of the consideration for the Supreme Court, okay? That I want to be very clear about.
Huh.
But here's the thing. I don't believe her testimony.
I see.
I'm not buying it.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, I can't articulate every little reason why, but I can articulate a few of the reasons why. And anybody gets to judge for themselves, and by everybody I mean the senators, because you and I, it doesn't matter what we think about it. But the senators get to make up their own minds, and I can totally understand if somebody were to watch Ms. Ford and believe her testimony and think, "Oh my God, it happened. I'm convinced. I'm ready to vote right now." I get that. That's your prerogative. Okay, I'm of the opposite opinion. My opinion is, I saw her, I watched her. From my perspective, she's either mistaken or she's lying, one of the two. I think it's probably mistaken, and I'll tell you why I think it is. If you watch her testimony very carefully, the most emotional that she ever becomes is when she talks about the potential asphyxiation. When she talks about, it's not the sexual assault that really gets her emotional.
I thought I was going to die. I thought he was going to kill me.
Exactly. And she even specifically identifies that as the most frightening part of the whole encounter. That's the thing that happened to her at some point that she's somehow referencing.
I gotcha.
Now, there are about 50 questions that I would have asked as that cross-examiner to test Miss Ford's memory of the event. And it would have been, and I could not believe it when the questioner just literally skipped over the entire event. This is what she said. She goes, after Miss Ford says, well, I went upstairs with the boys and then all that happened and whatever, and she goes, well, you've already testified about what happened upstairs, so let's not even talk about that. Tell me about where you lived in Maryland and such. And she did this circumstantial evidentiary analysis of you couldn't have gotten here and you couldn't have gotten there, and she left these giant holes. For example, Miss Ford clearly asserted, she said, I did not drive home that night. She said, but I don't remember how I got home that night. I'm sorry, those two things are completely inconsistent. If you do not remember, then you do not know whether or not you drove home that night.
True, that's right.
So you cannot say, and she said, oh, but I didn't drive. Well, how do you remember that? Why do you think that? And I know she's going to say, well, because I was 15. But let's hear it. Let's hear her say it. And she's extrapolating, in other words.
How'd she get there?
She doesn't remember. But she searched, she was 15 and she didn't drive, and it was 6 miles away or 20 minutes by car or something. So, interesting. But here are the details that I would have asked about. Just curious. She goes into the room upstairs, right? What's the room like? Is it a big room? Is it the master bedroom? Is it a guest bedroom? Is there one bed in there or two beds? Is it, how's the lighting? Were there lights in the room? Were there windows? Could you see everything in the room? Was there anybody else in the room? Were there other things in the room? Was there like a dresser or something? Where was the music in relation to, where was the stereo? Because in that case it was a stereo in relationship to the bed. How long after you came into the room did Brett or somebody push you onto the bed? How did you fall onto the bed? Did you fall completely onto the bed? Did you lose any clothing when you fell onto the bed? A shoe? Anything? Did all of your clothing stay onto the bed? Were you completely on the bed? When he jumped onto you, did he jump completely on top of you? Did you fall backwards onto the bed or forwards onto the bed? Did he jump on top of your back or on top of your chest? Were you guys face to face? Or was he sitting on top of you? Did he take off any of his clothes? What about Mark? Where was Mark during all this? Did Mark take off any clothes? What was Mark wearing? What was Brett wearing? What were you wearing outside of your bathing suit? Were any of your clothes torn? Were any of your clothes damaged in any way? Did you receive any bruises? When Brett was on top of you, what were you doing with your hands? Did you try to scratch him? Did you have long nails? Could you have scratched him? Did you grab his hands? You said he was groping you. Where did he touch you exactly? Do you need a moment? Do you need some time? It was 35 years ago. Remember, we're all safe here. Everything's fine. He can't hurt you. Let's go back into it. Where did he touch you? Okay. And did he leave his hand there? Did you try to remove his hand? Did you grab his hands? You said you tried to scream and he put his hand over your mouth. How long did he keep his hand over your mouth? You didn't pass out, right? So he took his hand away from your mouth. Why did he take his hand away from your mouth? Did you take his hand away or did he take it away? When he took his hand away, did you try to scream again? You said you looked at Mark and make eye contact. Did you say anything to Mark? Was he saying anything to Mark? Were you guys laughing? Were they laughing the whole time? Did they say anything to each other? How long was the entire encounter? When Mark jumped onto the bed, did he jump straight on top of you two? Or did he jump on a different part of the bed? There's so many questions. Then Mark gets back off of you two, and you still couldn't get up at that point? Did you try to kick him off or anything? No? Okay, so Mark gets off, and then he's just standing on the side going, get him, Brett, or something? What's going on there? And then Mark jumps back on? And where in all that was the attempted scream? Was it at the beginning, the middle, or the end? And then they fall off of you, and if you lost any clothing, did you retrieve it? And then you left. And so, all of those details, she either has a memory of or no memory of. And I think her answers to those questions would show if she's making something, or certainly a lot more things. And if she has answers to all those questions, or even some of those questions, it might provide all the detail anybody needs to convict. But contrary-wise, if she makes mistakes about things...
Right, well, that would be the big thing is it would be a contradiction thing. Or, wait a minute, you just said such and such,
That's right. Your hands were here.
Your hands were here. Well, and how could they be over here?
That's right. And how come you didn't scream with the other hand, and you didn't try to scratch him at all? And of course, you would also ask all these things out of chronological order.
I see.
The woman went straight chronological.
Right.
So that's what you do for a jury. There's no jury here.
No.
You're trying to trip up the questioner at this point. And if she remembers all the details, the chronology doesn't matter to her because they're all in her head. So you can ask them totally out of order.
Out of order, right.
And that's what you do. And so it is this just a totally different set of questions.
Well, of course, I guess, I don't know for sure, but it does, like I say, the questions are still open. And of course, what's going to be interesting is if he is confirmed, it's going to be like by one vote.
Right. Well, from my perspective, I think Kavanaugh, unfortunately, not only did he say 6 different things which now could be interpreted as lies, including obvious stuff like the drinking age in Maryland at the time. Everybody has now triangulated that to be that he was underage. Yeah. And he told them that he was overage, and so.
No, the drinking age in Maryland, unless they change it, is 21.
Well, but he was there right when the grandfather clause happened.
Okay.
But apparently he missed it, according to the accounts that I'm seeing on the web. Mm-hmm. He missed it by a few months or something.
Okay.
No, in that situation, if you're a kid, you probably think, well, I just missed it, so.
Well, no, but I mean, look, at these private house parties, there was always liquor.
Oh, well, of course. But what I mean is he tried to make it, he literally said that he was drinking legally to the committee. So, look, and also the other thing that he said, which is just horrible, and really, no matter anything else, you can forget everything else that he said. He attacked the Democrats and the left from during his testimony.
I know.
And that unfortunately casts a pall on his impartiality. One of the things that judges have to do is they have to maintain the appearance of impartiality. Not just impartiality, but the appearance of impartiality. He's compromised that.
I see.
And there are judges around the country that will look at that and be like, he's
already made up his mind.
Yeah, he's compromised.
The cases are going to come before him where he's already made up his mind.
It's going to be. Yeah, I don't know how. And I hope you're right, I guess. I hope that he gets out of it.
Well, the thing about it is, the way I look at it is, it might also turn out that, a couple of things. once you get up there with the other guy, there's going to be, they're going to tone him down,
right?
And once you get in the same room with Clarence or anybody else, and you realize that the three women up there, they've already made up their minds also on a lot of this stuff. I mean, they all vote the same. I mean, when it goes up and it's going to be 5-4, 4-4, whatever. You always know that on this side are this group here always, and on this side is this group always.
Well, I'm less.
Well, of course, what's his name was a swing vote, blah blah blah. But the point is that the women do seem to vote together. I've seen one or two dissents by Ruth. That made sort of sense to me, but basically,
I'm not that pessimistic about the court.
Well,
but I'm more optimistic about his ability to recover.
Right. No, I believe that once you assume the mantle, and the black and the majesty,
I'm sure he'd do fine. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. No, I agree.
I think at this point they might as well ash can him and go with somebody else. But.
Well, they have to go through this whole charade again, though. I mean, the problem is, who's going to put up with this?
Oh, anybody. Are you kidding me, man? The judge, because look, the way, there's a way to handle it that you don't have to do all that stuff.
No, I guess you're right.
You just sit there and take it on the chin. You like I said, most of these judges have watched defendants sit there through murder trials and such and not make a move. Hey, you can do it.
Okay. All right. Well then. I can see that. I can see that. I think though that, and of course this is good news and bad news because as Eisenhower once said when asked about his mistakes, he says 2 of them are on the Supreme Court, and that. But again, and because they did a dramatic switch, and that can happen. But I think that the majesty of it and the other justices will prevail. And show him the ropes and how to do. He's the guy that, at least for the time being, has to go out and get the coffee and stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So that'll teach you.
Get out there, frat boy.
Yeah, that's it.
It's pledge week.
Yeah, it's pledge week. But it is going to be, in a way, kind of sad. They're going to call the, as you know, they're going to call it a illegitimate. If he does win by 1 vote on the committee and 1 vote in the Senate,
call it whatever they want. Clarence Thomas has been on there for 25, 30 years.
Yeah, but his was like 57 to 43 or so. It wasn't a 1 vote. It was It was.
Well, one, like you said, one is enough. But I guess we'll see. I mean, I could care less in terms.
Couldn't care less.
Yeah, exactly about it. Well, no, I could care less.
When people say that, I'm gonna.
No, what I mean is, I really care a lot.
Yeah, right. I'm moving on.
That's right. But what can you do?
Well, I guess we're going to find out. They put this off for another week, and I guess we're going to have to hear just turn off the TV for a week, because.
Well, we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, bring Ford in there. Bring not Ford, Judge.
Judge, yeah. Mm-hmm. What a name.
Yeah. Somebody was saying if he was a judge, he'd be Judge. Yeah.
Really. Just if that had been my name, I would absolutely gone into the law. There's no question. There's no question. There's no question about it.
All right. Well, thanks for tuning in, everybody.
Yeah, we went.
Looks like we had a nice live stream here, so I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back
on Wednesday
at 4 p.m. here on the Jimmy Doane channel on YouTube. And share this with your friends. Send us a message. Send us a comment if you like. Like us if you like. Like us if you don't. And we'll get back with you soon.
Have you seen? You saw this picture, right?
Oh yeah. We talked about it.
The look on her face.